Good morning, Year 5. Today's learning technique is to measure acute angles accurately. To begin with, we're going to look at the basics of a protractor. So there's a few things that you need to know about a protractor. This here is called the midpoint. Okay, that's really important to identify when you are measuring angles accurately. This is the zero line, and we have two of them. We have one on the outside, which is called the outer scale if we are measuring angles from the left, and then we have a zero on the right side, which is called the inner scale, which is when we're measuring angles from the right. It's something that we'll look at further into the video. The protractor goes up in 10 degrees, so you can see the numbers clearly on the outer scale, and you can see them on the inner scale as well. But when you measure angles, they don't always end up being multiples of 10. So every angle won't turn out to be 70 or 90 degrees or 110 degrees. This is why we use a protractor, to be more accurate. Now, the red arrows here, they are pointing to these slightly longer lines on the protractor. Them lines are actually intervals of 5 on the protractor. So for example, if you were measuring this line here as an angle, you know that it's more than 40, less than 50, and because it's pointing to this line here, you'd know that that would be 45 degrees. If we look at this green arrow here, if we were measuring an angle starting from 0 and it came along to this green arrow, we know it's more than 10, and these are going up in intervals of 1 degree, so that would be 12 degrees for that measurement. Here is an angle for us to measure. So how do we use the protractor to measure the angle? Well, there's two really important things that you need to identify. You need to identify the midpoint on the protractor and the vertex on the angle. The vertex is where the two lines meet to form an angle. So this is the midpoint on the protractor. This is the vertex on the angle. Step 1. Make sure the midpoint of the protractor is on the angle's vertex. So you can see that the protractor, the midpoint of it has been lined up accurately onto the vertex of this angle. Step 2. Line up one side of the angle with the zero line on the protractor. The green arrow is showing the zero line on the protractor. We need that to line up with the line of the angle, which is shown with the yellow arrow. So if we line that up correctly, it should end up looking like this. My zero line now is in the correct place here. Step 3. As 0 is on the left of the protractor, you read from the outer scale. So let's have a look first of all. My midpoint is in the correct place. The 0 line is lined up with this line over here. It is on the left, so you read from the outer scale. So we start from this 0 here. The angle starts from there and it ends over here. So we need to look at what this angle measures. So we would start from 0 and go along. It's bigger than 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. So it's more than 70, but it's less than 80. This is where we need to look at the intervals. So I can see that it's definitely not 75 degrees, it's less than that. We start 70, we have 71, 72, 73. So we measured, and we know that the angle is 73 degrees. So we can fill out this statement. Now the size of this acute angle is 73 degrees. We know it's an acute angle because 73 degrees is less than 90, and we know that acute angles are the smallest type of angles as well. Your turn. Complete the sentence for the angle below. So the size of this something angle is how many degrees? Pause the video and have a look. Right, so let's have a look and see what your answer was. So the size of this acute angle is 35 degrees. We should have started from the 0 here and went along this line, and we can see that the angle stops here, which is 35 degrees. Let's have a look at another example. So this time the angle is on the right hand side. Now when we measure this angle, we'll need to use the inner scale and measure this accurately. The reason we're not using the outer scale this time is because the angle's on the right hand side and we wouldn't start measuring from 180. Just wouldn't make sense. We start from 0 and we count up and see what the angle measures. So pause the video and have a think about what type of angle it is and how many degrees it measures. Now let's complete the sentence then. The size of this acute angle is 67 degrees. So it was more than 60 but less than 70, and then we should have been looking at the intervals, so it was definitely more than 65, and we count on 66 and 67. True or false? The angle below measures 95 degrees. What you need to think about here is, do we use the inner scale or the outer scale? Do we measure from the left side or do we measure from the right side? Pause the video, think about if this statement is true or false. Right, so we should have been using the inner scale because the angle is on the right hand side. So we should be starting with this 0 over here and moving along. Bigger than 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So it's more than 80 but less than 90, and it's halfway between them two numbers. So the angle is actually 85 degrees, not 95. So this statement is false. If it was true, we would have ended up over here. But we actually stopped over here, and that's why the angle measures 85 degrees, not 95. Have a look at how the protractor has been used to measure this angle. Can you spot the mistake? Pause the video and have a look, please. So the mistake here is the angle is not in line with the 0 line of the protractor. It's actually been lined up with 30 degrees, and we never start measuring an angle from 30 degrees. We always start measuring from 0. This is how it should have been lined up. You can see now that the 0 line is in line with the line of the angle. The midpoint is on the vertex, and then we can start measuring the angle from 0 up to where the angle ends. Thank you for watching the video. Just a few points to remember. Make sure the midpoint lines up with the vertex when you are measuring the angles. Make sure that when you are looking at the angles, if the angle's on the left side, you start with the outer scale starting from 0. If the angle's on the right side, you start with the inner scale starting from 0. There were intervals of 1, which are the smaller lines, and then the slightly bigger lines are intervals of 5. Your answers won't always be multiples of 10, so you do need to be accurate with your answers. As usual, we are here to support you, so if you do get stuck with anything, just make sure you message and we are happy to help. Have a great day. Bye.